In this clip, we'll witness a Republican congresswoman lose her composure to such an extent that she nearly prevents the show's host from speaking, as she's determined to cram in as many points as she can in defense of Donald Trump. As always, let's watch the entire video first. I'll share my opinions with you at the end.
Okay, let's speak now to a congresswoman who spent this week with Donald Trump, Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
So, President Trump is clearly under massive pressure this week. You've been with him in the Oval Office. How did you find him?
Well, I'd like to just share that just announced literally moments ago that Attorney General Pam Bondi filed a motion to unseal that grand jury testimony. So as you know, this is the most transparent administration in U.S. history. And I can also tell you that President Trump has delivered on his campaign promises, and he will continue to do that. As you also know, earlier today, the Wall Street Journal was actually sued by President Trump. And I do believe that he's going to be winning in court. You know, they actually were told by the White House that the drawing was not President Trump's, and unfortunately they still chose to go with the narrative. But I'd also like to add that the reporter who wrote that story at the Wall Street Journal was also tied to Fusion GPS, which had ties to Russia collusion. And I'd like to finalize the statement by saying this. Tulsi Gabbard just announced earlier today that they have proof. They released the evidence to the American people directly, stating that the Obama administration actually was a part of putting together the political and intelligence warfare that was waged against President Trump in regards to Russia collusion. So as you are seeing, this is a massively orchestrated attempt to discredit and undermine the president. But he's not one to back down. As you saw, he's a fighter, and we're frankly winning the messaging war on all of this.
I mean, there's an awful lot there. Let's work our way through some of it. You're saying this is all the media and
Yeah,
the Democrats. He's been lashing out at his own people, blaming what he called stupid Republicans. This has split the party. 79% of Americans want the government to release all the documents it has, including 75% of Republicans. He's angered his own side on this, hasn't he?
Well, I can tell you that I was actually one of the only Republicans in the House of Representatives that earlier this year started requesting a full release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. As you know, I'm the chairwoman of the Declassification Task Force on Federal Secrets. And I can also tell you that I was applying pressure on our Attorney General. And what I found is that at the Department of Justice, there was a lot of people that were there that were holdovers and bureaucrats that were not passing information. In February, I was actually made aware of a whistleblower who had alleged that at the FBI, destruction of evidence had occurred pertaining to information ranging from everything allegedly from Russiagate to the Jeffrey Epstein files. And this had actually started under the former deputy director of the FBI, Paul Bates, under Biden's administration. And so, look, the United States is one of the greatest countries in the world, but ultimately it's up to us in Congress, up to the American people to hold our elected officials responsible, and then also to ensure that we're going after public corruption. And you're seeing this happen right now. When President Trump made his statement stating that this was a hoax and that there was ties to essentially the deep state on this, he was not inaccurate in that. And frankly, there were a lot of people that were willing to say that the president was trying to cover up something when in actuality, behind the scenes, we are flushing a lot of this investigation out. And so what I can tell you is that President Trump was in good spirits this week.
But he has been all over the place on this. He said that the Epstein files, he was going to release them, then they were sitting on someone's desk, then that they didn't exist, then this week they were boring. Now he's talking about releasing the some of the court papers, but that's not the whole files, is it?
Well, what I can tell you is you actually conflated his statements with the Attorney General's as well. And so the Attorney General had actually been the one that, in my opinion, got involved in the semantics. But what I can tell you is what I have advised this administration to do is to treat this the way that we treated the John F. Kennedy files and a full transparency to the American people, and to put all the files directly on the National Archives for the American people to go through the evidence on. And I'd also like to share that I do believe that this is going to be an ongoing thing in regards to the declassification of some of these files. As you are seeing, and as it has been pointed out by other victims as well, there's a lot of CSAM, unfortunately, child sexual abuse materials in the Jeffrey Epstein tapes that he was holding, as well as victim information. And so what I've advised the administration, my position has not changed. And I do believe the administration will be releasing information to the American people. I assume everyone in the world will be looking at this because of the people that were involved. But I'd also like to correct the statements of the previous individual that was on your show. It is very well known and also reaffirmed by Ghislaine Maxwell that Donald Trump cut all ties with Jeffrey Epstein after he was in trouble. So any assertion that President Trump continued this relationship with a pedophile is completely wrong.
Well, I just want to share with you, this is a quote that Donald Trump said back in 2002, speaking to New York Magazine. He said that Jeffrey Epstein was a terrific guy, a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. That must make you, at the very least, must make you uncomfortable.
I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that President Trump was likely stating his own opinions, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he was talking about children, if that's what your implication is. And I'd like to go a step further in that, you know, why is it that the BBC and the media is not focusing on people like Bill Clinton that were hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, do you really think that the Biden administration that literally hated Donald Trump's guts was going to sit on information potentially implicating him with a child molester and not release it? I think any implication of that is just pretty egregious.
To be fair, that wasn't an implication that I was making. Anna Paulina Luna, Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us on Newsnight tonight. I appreciate your time. Michael Wolff was listening into that. Michael, what do you make of what you've just heard? He's not panicking. Is all fine? He's in good spirits.
Yeah, well, that congresswoman is just a West Wing puppet, and I think you can tell that they are in full denial mode, pushing out their surrogates to not address any of the issues here, and I think it is an indication of panic. They haven't figured out how to deal with this story. This is a train coming at them, and it's coming at them very quickly at this point.
In fact, we saw tonight Donald Trump in the White House attending an event and not answering any journalist questions, whereas on other occasions he's quite keen to do that. When in exactly a week's time, President Trump will be right here in...
All right, you guys just watched that yourself. What struck me as odd when I first saw that clip was Anna Paulina, I think that's how you say her name, absolutely botched the start of the interview. She came across as completely unhinged right from the beginning. Right from the start, she was determined to push numerous talking points, so much so that she barely let the host get a word in edgewise. If you caught the first segment of the interview, you'd notice that the host repeatedly attempted to jump in and offer his perspective. Now, as Michael Wolff, if I got his name right, pointed out at the end, you can clearly see that this administration is in full-blown panic mode. They're desperately scrambling to find the best way, the best strategy, to tackle this issue and to navigate what's happening. But truth be told, they are clearly floundering. She even claimed they're winning the communication battle on this front, which just isn't true. It's not true because many within their own ranks, whether Republican or MAGA supporters, aren't buying it, and they too are demanding answers. You can see they're doing whatever they can to provide cover for this saga. However, Donald Trump needs to realize one thing: this isn't something that'll just vanish. It's not disappearing, not by a long shot, and my final thoughts are that all these right-wing politicians, those standing defiantly with Trump, will ultimately face a moment when Trump himself isn't around anymore. At that point, they will be held accountable, and history will remember the extent to which they went to shield an alleged sexual predator. Yes, I said alleged. History will mark this because there's so much evidence and implications pointing directly at Donald Trump as being central to these events. But these Republican allies, all these voices and advocates for Trump, will also be remembered, and not for any admirable reasons. As always, share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm eager to hear what you think about Anna Paulina's rather bizarre and erratic interview. While you're at it, do me a solid, hit the thumbs up and subscribe to boost me on the YouTube algorithm. I appreciate you all and see you next time.